Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. Today, I want to share the story of a year that completely changed my life. The year I moved abroad for the first time. This was not just a trip or a short stay. It was a full year of challenges, discoveries, mistakes, successes, and growth. Every single day was an adventure, sometimes thrilling, sometimes frightening, and often exhausting. I remember the night I arrived in the new country. The airport was enormous, filled with people speaking languages I barely understood. I carried my suitcase, which felt heavier than usual, and my heart was pounding with excitement and fear. My mind raced. Can I really do this? What if I get lost? What if I cannot communicate? What if I fail? I took a deep breath and reminded myself, this is your choice. You wanted this. You have to try. The first week was overwhelming. Every street felt unfamiliar, every sound was new, and every interaction required intense attention. I had to learn to take buses, find grocery stores, and read signs in a language I was only beginning to understand. I remember walking down the crowded street on my first morning, trying to find my apartment. The people around me moved so quickly that I felt invisible, and at some points, I wondered if I had made a mistake. I paused at a corner, took out my phone, and retraced my steps several times. I felt nervous, but also strangely alive, like my mind was fully awake for the first time in years. Work was a completely different kind of challenge. I had to adapt to a new work culture, communicate clearly in a foreign language, and meet expectations that were higher than I had imagined. I made mistakes. Emails sent to the wrong person, misinterpreted instructions, and even small social errors in casual conversations. Each mistake felt heavy, like a small weight on my shoulders, but I reminded myself, this is how you learn. Nobody expects perfection on your first day, week, or even month. Slowly, I began to observe how people interacted, how they solved problems, and how they navigated the work environment. Every detail was a lesson in adaptation and patience. Outside of work, the city became both my playground and my classroom. I walked every street I could, trying to remember landmarks, listen to local sounds, and notice the pace of life. I visited cafes, parks, markets, and museums. I tried foods I had never tasted, talked to strangers who sometimes helped me and sometimes ignored me, and slowly began to understand the rhythm of everyday life. I made a few friends, but not immediately. Making friends abroad required patience, courage, and repeated effort. Every conversation, every smile, every small interaction taught me something new, not just about the country or the city, but about myself. Loneliness was one of the hardest challenges. Some evenings after a long day, I would sit in my small apartment and feel completely alone. The absence of familiar voices, familiar smells, and familiar routines hit me like a wave. I missed my family, my friends, and the comfort of home. I would call them, but after the call, I would feel even more aware of the distance. Yet, in that loneliness, I discovered something important. I was stronger than I thought. I learned to rely on myself, to enjoy my own company, and to create routines that made me feel grounded even when I was far from home. As weeks turned into months, I noticed subtle but profound changes. I was more confident in speaking the local language. I could navigate the city without fear, and I had developed routines that provided a sense of comfort. Morning coffee at the same cafe, a walk through the same park, greeting shopkeepers, and even choosing a favorite seat at the library. These small routines built a sense of belonging. I realized that home is not always a place. Sometimes it is a set of habits, interactions, and familiarities that give you peace. Then came moments of real triumph. One day at work, I solved a complex problem that had been troubling my team for weeks. My manager smiled and said, "Excellent work. We are glad you're here." I felt an enormous surge of pride and relief. It was proof that I could handle challenges, that I could learn quickly, and that I could belong in a new environment. Each small success became a building block of confidence, resilience, and self-belief. Living abroad taught me lessons I could never have learned at home. I learned patience because adapting to a new culture takes time. I learned resilience because I had to continue despite mistakes, rejections, and setbacks. I learned empathy because I had to understand people from different backgrounds and perspectives. And I learned courage because every single day required me to face fear, uncertainty, and discomfort, yet continue moving forward. By the end of the year, I felt completely transformed. The city that once seemed overwhelming and confusing now felt like home. I had built relationships, learned routines, discovered my strengths, and understood my weaknesses. I realized that growth is not about comfort. It's about embracing the unknown, taking risks, failing, and trying again. And the most important lesson I learned, challenges are not obstacles. They are opportunities to discover your potential. If you are listening to this episode and thinking about taking a bold step, moving to a new country, trying a new job, or stepping out of your comfort zone, remember this. The first days and weeks may be overwhelming. You may feel lost, afraid, and uncertain. You may doubt yourself and wonder if you can succeed. But if you persist, observe, learn, and adapt, you will not just survive. You will grow, you will learn, and you will discover strength you didn't know you had. And one day when you look back, you will smile and say, "I faced fear, I embraced change, and I became the person I always wanted to be."